when you begin to seek God and you begin to ask Him to lead your life, He's going to start bringing you through these things. And you're going to have to begin to start working on what is the things that are stressing me out. Why am I angry right now? Why am I feeling these insecurities? Why am I dealing with these mindsets? And you have to begin to work through those things. And as you do, as God brings you down that journey, you'll not only build your relationship with Him, you'll not only build your confidence and your self-worth, you'll also learn how to hear God's voice in your life. Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Firm My Life podcast. Look, today I want to talk to you about how to hear God's voice, how to hear God speak to you. But more clearly, I want to talk to you about how do I know when it is God and when it's not God? Because I've had situations in my life where I would be praying about something, like a decision that I needed to make or a situation in my life, my marriage, my home, my business, whatever. And I was there and I'd be praying and I would have this thought pop in my head. That's one of the ways that God speaks to us. He speaks to us in a lot of ways, but that's one that He does. And I remember this thought, one specific situation where this thought popped into my head and I was shocked. I was like, man, I've never thought about doing it that way before. It sounds really good. I think that would work. And I remember walking away from there with just this gut feeling like this is the right thing to do. And I went and I made that decision and, some time went by and I looked back and I was like, that was God. Like, God just spoke to me. How cool is that? And then the next time, I did the same thing. Another decision that had to be made and I'm praying about it. The solution popped in my head. I was like, man, I feel good about it. I feel like that's God. I feel like that's wisdom. And so I went and I made that decision. And then time went by and I looked back and I was like, oh my, that was not God. That was a terrible decision. And so I found myself in this place like, what do I do? How do I know? How do I know when God is really speaking to me? How do I decipher between the voice of God and the voice of everything else? So here's what I had to do, and here's what I want you to do. I had to begin to dissect the mistakes that I was making when trying to hear God's voice. Because the thing about God is He's big enough to teach all of us how to hear Him in our own way. We're all different, we all think different, but God knows how to show it to us. But when you're on this journey and you begin to start seeking God in your life and you begin to start praying and you begin to start asking Him to lead you, you're going to have these times when you feel like He speaks to you and you don't get it right. And if you've been on this journey at all, you've already come across these times. Here's what I want you to do. When you make those mistakes and you think that you hear God and you obviously don't, go back and really dig into what was going on when that happened. Because here's what I found. I found that when I thought God was speaking, and it wasn't God, it was always some other voice that was at play, and I just didn't realize it. It's like this. Have you ever been stressed out and trying to make a decision? How about, have you ever been angry and tried to make a decision? Or anxious or fearful? Right? There's these emotions, these voices. And when we go to prayer and we're stressed out about something, or we're mad, or we're angry, we're feeling hatred, or we're feeling just anxiety, fear, and we go to try to make a decision and we're trying to pray about something and we're trying to get God to lead us and we have all that going on, it's so hard to decipher between the two. And that's what I realized was I had to come to a place where I had to go to prayer and I had to begin to ask God to push those things aside. I'd be like, God, I'm coming to you right now with an open mind. Like, I'm not allowing stress to determine my decision. I'm not allowing my feelings, my emotions right now to be in control. I want to hear you clearly. And as I began to go through that process, there were some other things I had to work through. I realized that my own insecurities, when I just feeling like I wasn't enough, like my own inconfidence, my own lack of self-worth, that was having a big impact on my ability to hear God's voice. Peer pressure, the people around me, the things I was listening to, was having a big impact on my ability to hear God's voice. I found that I had a lot of bad mindsets about God, especially, that was really affecting the way I was hearing God's voice, or what I felt like was God's voice. And so there was a lot of things that I had to work through to get this clear picture. And I think that's kind of the whole point, because when you begin to seek God and you begin to ask Him to lead your life, He's going to start bringing you through these things. And you're going to have to begin to start working on what is the things that are stressing me out. Why am I angry right now? Why am I feeling these insecurities? Why am I dealing with these mindsets? And you have to begin to work through those things. And as you do, as God brings you down that journey, you'll not only build your relationship with Him, you'll not only build your confidence and your self-worth, you'll also learn how to hear God's voice in your life. So there's one aspect of this that I wanted to give you. And so let me give you a couple more tips. These are just kind of simpler things. But, when you recognize that those voices are there, you're praying and you say, hey, I am feeling angry. I am feeling stressful. And you ask God to give you a clear mind, to help you work through. Understand that there are times where you don't need to make that decision immediately. The bigger the decision, actually, the more time you should take. So sometimes you have to just back off and be like, God, I'm going to come back to you with this. Like, I'm going to give it a day. I'm going to give it a couple of days because I'm feeling these emotions and I need some time to process this. And I'm not going to make a decision based off of the wrong thing. And sometimes you just got to come back and revisit that again later. Right? So give it time. Another thing you need to do is sometimes you just need to get another perspective on it. You just need to call somebody up and ask them. Like, I remember one story, this girl, she was like 18, 19 years old. She was dating this dude, and it wasn't a really good relationship. And my wife and I was trying to help her through that, and it kind of all fell apart. And she came to us, and she was just broken, and she was just stressed out, just that stuff. And I remember she came to us, and I was like, I tried to tell you. Like, I tried to warn you. And she was like, yeah, I know you did, and my pastor did, and my parents did, but I really just wanted God to speak to me. And I just remember looking at her like, really? Like, you don't think God can speak to you through all the people around you? Like, you got 15 people trying to tell you something and you want God to speak to you? Look, sometimes you just need to just back up, just zoom out, get a little bit of advice, get a little bit of counsel from other people, just look at it from a different perspective, and that'll often just make it a lot easier for you to make a decision. Sometimes we don't necessarily need to hear God's voice, we just need to hear the voice of common sense. Like common sense will take a lot of stress out of your life. So back up and get a bigger picture. Ask some advice, ask some people, do some research, make some phone calls, look for red flags, you can get more information. And then when you go back to prayer with that, you've pushed past all those emotions, you have a clear picture, you've got some more advice, some other people's perspective. Now when you come back to make this decision, you can hear God's voice so much clearer in your life. Don't overcomplicate this. Too many times, Christian people, we try to make stuff so spiritual, so complicated, and it really shouldn't be. All right? Make it practical. Make it apply to your life right now. Make it make sense. And I'm telling you, God's going to teach you how to hear His voice. All right, so I hope that helps. Listen, subscribe, like, comment, and I'm going to keep putting these videos. They're going to come your way. All right, stay tuned. Thank you guys for watching.